Hey everyone. So in this video, we're going to go over the lesson on coherence, which is the third step in the writing process. So in the previous two lessons for this week, we learned about steps 1 and 2, point and support. So for this lesson, we're going to go over step 3, which is all about coherence. Go ahead and take a look here. All right. So we know that we have to begin our paragraph with a clearly stated point, a clearly stated focus in our topic sentence. And we know that the rest of our paragraph has to then support that topic, right? But while you are coming up with those main ideas and your supporting examples, you should also be thinking about ways to organize those ideas and ways to connect the details, the specific examples that you're providing. All of the details in your paragraph need to cohere or sort of stick together. When you have coherence, your reader will be able to move smoothly from one bit of supporting information to the next. So we're going to look at 3 ways to organize and connect your details. Common methods of organization, so that kind of refers to your main ideas, and then transition words and other connecting words. And those are sort of how you connect your sentences. So you have to think of coherence on 2 levels. Sort of the bigger picture, which is what is the best way to organize my main ideas? But then within each main idea, how do I connect my thoughts so that they are flowing smoothly one from the next, right? Okay, so when we're talking about methods of organization, looking at the bigger picture, your main ideas, oftentimes the 2 sort of common methods of organization that you'll lean towards would either be time order or emphatic order. And time order is sort of exactly what it sounds like. If you are dealing with a topic and your main ideas, there's some sort of timeline or chronological order to them, you're going to use time order. And that's going to include transitions like first this is done, next this, after that you do this, and so on. So it's not necessarily time as in like time on a clock per se, but really more like this, this comes first and then this comes next and then this comes third and this comes, after that, and then this comes last. The other method of organization, if there's really no sort of time or timeline or like set order that is involved, you can't really use time order. You would probably then use emphatic order. So emphatic order is sometimes described as saving the best for last. It means that the least interesting or least important detail is placed early on, and you work your way down to the most interesting, the most important details. So that would mean sort of, I think I used the Chick-fil-A example in one of the previous lessons this week. And, I had said that, maybe I would write a paragraph that says Chick-fil-A is a great place to eat because of their cleanliness, service, and food. I'm talking about the cleanliness first, because even though that is important to me, it is not the most important thing to me. And then I'm talking about the service next, because it's a little bit more important than cleanliness to me. And then the most important thing for me is how good the food is. If I'm going to suggest a restaurant to someone, the food is really where my emphasis is going to be. So I ordered my ideas from least important to most important, or least impactful to most impactful. The reason we do that and save the best for last is because human nature says we tend to remember best what we read or hear last. Sometimes we can remember what happened at the beginning pretty well. The middle always gets kind of fuzzy, but most of the time, the ending is what we remember the most. So knowing that, it makes sense then that you would want to save your most important information till the end of the paragraph to make sure that's what your reader remembers most. Hopefully, since it's just one small paragraph, they'll remember all of it. But it's a good rule of thumb to get into the habit of, even though we're working with single standalone paragraphs, because when you start working on longer pieces and an actual essay, then you really have to think about what main idea should I talk about first? What should go in the middle? Which main idea should come last? And then you have, a whole essay that your reader has to remember. And then you really want to make sure that you are thinking about the best placement for your main ideas so as to have the biggest impact on your reader. So even though probably not much of an issue with a single standalone paragraph, we still want to get into the habit of thinking about what is the most logical, most effective way to order my main ideas. What makes the most sense? Time order, that kind of is built in for you, as long as you are being very thoughtful about the order. What does come first? What comes second? What comes third? Right? Emphatic order, you have more decisions to make because there's no right or wrong. It's really more of a feeling and what you believe is the most important idea and where it should be placed. Okay, so let's take a look a little closer at these. Right, we're going to look first at time order. So what we have here is a small paragraph. We have our topic sentence for the paragraph, right? Last summer, my family went on vacation to an amusement park. But then, as you can see, all the rest of the sentences for that paragraph are just listed here in no particular order. We have to use the clues and a little bit of logic and common sense to figure out what the order should be, right? So there might be some words and phrases, some transitions that will help us figure out the order. And then part of it, again, is using just a little bit of common sense and really thinking about how all of these ideas fit together. All right, so last summer, my family went on vacation to an amusement park. So we've got, after several rides, my parents convinced me to see a show. So we know that seeing the show comes after having ridden some rides. The next day, I was first in line for the roller coaster. Okay, so we're already at the next day. So we got to really figure out what comes before the next day. Before lunch, I rode on a water ride and got soaking wet. Okay, so, we've got water ride, and then seeing a show after several rides. Finally, it was time to head back to the hotel. Well, we know that's probably going to come towards the end, right? If not the very end, we'll see. As soon as we arrived, I headed for the long line at the roller coaster. Okay, so last summer, my family went on vacation to an amusement park. It probably makes the most sense that this would be the next sentence. As soon as we arrived, I headed for the long line at the roller coaster. And then we're talking about rides. After several rides, my parents convinced me to see a show, right? So we go from rides to the show. Before lunch, I rode on a water ride and got soaking wet. Finally, it was time to head back to the hotel. And the next day I was first in line for the roller coaster. You see? Right? Do you see how some of these transitions helped us figure out the order? As soon as, right? After, before lunch. And these two, we kind of, we knew this was the first thing he did, got in line for the roller coaster. And then these two, after several rides, my parents convinced me to see a show. And before lunch, I rode on a water ride and got soaking wet. those two we kind of had to think about, okay, well, which one probably came first? Because there's nothing necessarily in the transitions that tell us for sure which one of these comes next. We gotta kind of think about it. Well, he's using this transition here after several rides. And we know that this sentence was about the first ride, the roller coaster. So that's how we kind of know that this one comes next. So as soon as we arrived, I headed for the long line at the roller coaster. After several rides, my parents convinced me to see a show. Not to mention the fact that it's probably less likely they would try to make him go see a show if he was already soaking wet from the water ride. Maybe he dried out at lunch. I don't know. But you can kind of see how most of the sentences we were able to figure out based on the transitions and the clues of those words. A couple of them we had to sort of take a second and think about a little further to come up with our most educated guess as to which order they should have been in. All right. And this is how the paragraph would look written out. And I kind of put in bold those clues. As soon as we arrived, after several rides, before lunch, finally, the next day, right? Time order. What happened first, second, third, next, last. We have another one here for time order, except it's a good bit longer. So our topic sentence says, I like to relax in a variety of ways, but on Thursdays, I have a very specific routine. Okay. Next, I run hot water in the tub and put in lots of scented bubble bath. Well, we know that's not going to make sense as the next sentence in this paragraph because it says next, and we haven't even had a first yet. But we know that the next step, whenever it does happen, is about taking a bubble bath. After about 10 minutes of soaking, I wash myself with scented soap, get out and dry myself off and put on my nightgown. Okay, so we don't know if this sentence is going to come right after this one, but we know it's going to come somewhere after this one because this first sentence right here on the list is telling us that the next thing they do is take a bubble bath. And this sentence is what happens after the bubble bath. As the bubbles rise, I undress and get into the tub. Okay, so this is where they started the bubble bath. This is where they ended the bubble bath. But this sentence right here is really more about still getting the bath ready or waiting for the tub to fill up. So it's going to come somewhere in between these two sentences. I like to stick my big toe up on the spigot and spray water over the tub. Okay, so this clearly happens after they've already gotten in and before they've gotten out. The water is relaxing to my tired muscles and the bubbles are tingly on my skin. All right, so again, we know that one's coming after the bath is ready, but before they've gotten out. I lie back and put my feet on the water spigots with everything but my head underwater. All right, again, still in the tub. But we know now that this one, they're just laying, they've just lied back and put their feet up on the water spigots. So this sentence probably comes before this one about sticking their big toe up on the spigot and spraying water all over the tub. All right, the way I relax when I get home from school on Thursday night is, first of all, to put my 3 children to bed. That is, can't say for sure yet without reading the rest of the sentences, but there's a pretty good chance that this is going to be number 1, right? It's going to be the first one that comes after the topic sentence because it's first of all. I enjoy watching The Daily Show or a late movie. Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't have anything to do with putting children to bed or taking a bubble bath. So clearly this is another step in their relaxation process, but we don't really know what it is yet. To get comfortable, I sit on the couch with a pillow behind me and my legs under me. Again, not putting kids to bed and not taking a bath. So then I go downstairs and make myself a ham, lettuce, and tomato sandwich on rye bread and pour myself a tall glass of iced tea with plenty of sugar and ice cubes. This might be what happens after the bath, right? Then I go downstairs, probably. The time is very peaceful after a long, hard day of house cleaning, cooking, washing, and attending night class. I carry these items into the living room and turn on the television. What items are they carrying into the living room? Oh, probably the sandwich and iced tea, right? Yeah, and then, I carry these into the living room and turn on the television. Okay, and then we've got the Daily Show or late movies. That's maybe what they watch on television. And then to get comfortable, I'm not sure. We'll have to see. Huh. Seems like this one down here is probably the concluding sentence, right? This time is very peaceful after a long, hard day of house cleaning, cooking, washing, and attending night class. So that's time after they've put their kids to bed, taken the bubble bath, and made a sandwich and iced tea, and are sitting down to watch TV. That's the time that is very peaceful. So we can kind of see, you know, how some of these main ideas are. The first step is putting the kids to bed. And I never really got any other sentences about that. So that might just be one sentence about step one. The way I relax when I get home from school on Thursday night is, first of all, to put my 3 children to bed. Next, I run hot water in the tub and put in lots of scented bubble bath. Oops. And then we got to figure out all of these right here. All revolve around that bath. So we got to figure out what the specific order is of those examples, those supporting sentences. And then we know they go downstairs to make the sandwich and get the iced tea. They go into the living room to watch the Daily Show or a movie. They get comfortable, right? Very peaceful time. Let's look at the order. So let's see here. I like to relax in a variety of ways, but on Thursdays, I have a very specific routine. The way I relax when I get home from school on Thursday night is, first of all, to put my 3 children to bed. Next, I run hot water in the tub and put in lots of scented bubble bath. So they're running the water, put in the bubble bath. As the bubbles rise, I undress and get into the tub. Okay. They get into the tub. The water is relaxing to my tired muscles and the bubbles are tingly on my skin. And they lie back. I lie back and put my feet on the water spigots with everything but my head under the water. And then while they're laying back with their feet up on the water spigots, I like to stick my big toe up on the spigot and spray water over the tub. After about 10 minutes of soaking, I wash myself with scented soap, get up and dry myself off and put on my nightgown. Then I go downstairs and make myself a ham, lettuce, and tomato sandwich on rye bread, and pour myself a tall glass of iced tea with plenty of sugar and ice cubes. I carry these items into the living room and turn on the television. To get comfortable, I sit on the couch with a pillow behind me and my legs under me. I enjoy watching the Daily Show or a late movie. The time is very peaceful after a long, hard day of house cleaning, cooking, washing, and attending night class. So again, you can kind of see how the 3 main steps of her routine: put children to bed, bath, sandwich, drink, and TV. 3 steps. She has to go in order, right? She has to tell us what the first step is, what the second step is, and what the third step is. But even, she only gives us 1 sentence about the first step. She puts her kids to bed, that's it. The second step about the bath, obviously that has to come second, but then all the rest of the sentences about bath time have to be ordered in a logical way as well. So she starts the water in the tub and pours in the bubbles. She lets the water rise, right? The bubbles rise, and then she gets undressed and gets in, right? Water feels great to her tired muscles. Bubbles are tingly on her skin. She lies back and puts her feet up. Then she puts her toe on the spigot. After about 10 minutes, she washes off, dries off, puts on a nightgown. Then she goes downstairs. When she goes downstairs, that third step, everything about that third step has to be ordered logically also. So she makes the sandwich and the iced tea. Then she carries them into the living room. Then she sits down and gets comfy. than she enjoys watching The Daily Show or a late movie. So she's using these, time order to get the main 3 steps in the right order. But then she's also using these transitions within each main idea so that we understand, because each step, except for the kids, but the bath step and the sandwich, drink, and TV step, there's a certain order to each of those steps. So taking that bath is step 2 of her overall routine, but that bath comes with steps of its own that she has to follow, or that she chooses to follow, right? Time order. All right. And this is what it looks like as a paragraph with all the transitions and sort of clues that let us know what order they're supposed to go in. So let's take a look then at emphatic order. And again, emphatic order is when you sort of save the best idea for last. All right, so topic sentence. Olive Garden is one of the best restaurants around. Okay. Another reason why Olive Garden is a great place to eat is their friendly service. Well, that's probably not the second sentence of the paragraph because it starts with another reason, and we don't have a first reason yet. Another reason why Olive Garden is a great place to eat is their friendly service. The servers are always friendly and super helpful, and even the managers will come around to ensure you're being taken care of. Finally, the most important reason Olive Garden is a wonderful restaurant is their delicious food. Obviously, that's not going to come that soon in the paragraph. Finally indicates it's our last main idea. That's going to come further down. The endless salad is always fresh, and the endless breadsticks are always warm and buttery. So if you are trying to decide where your next dine out meal should come from, I highly recommend Olive Garden, as I know you won't be disappointed. That sounds like a competing idea to me. The first thing that makes Olive Garden a great place to dine is their cleanliness. The tables and dinnerware are always clean, and even the bathrooms are clean and well stocked. We can kind of see here, based on our clues, the first thing that makes Olive Garden a great place to dine is their cleanliness. And then the tables and dinnerware are always clean, and even the bathrooms are clean and well stocked. And then another reason why Olive Garden is a great place to eat is their friendly service. The servers are always friendly and super helpful, and even the managers will come around to ensure you are being taken care of. Finally, the most important reason Olive Garden is a wonderful restaurant is their delicious food. Oh, I missed this sentence before. Their pastas are also prepared well and always tasty. Oh, so we actually have 2 examples of the food. The first is the pastas. The second is the salad and breadsticks. So which of those should come first? Well, we could go sort of time order on this. You get the salad and breadsticks before you get the pasta. But there's actually a clue in here that tells us their pastas are also prepared well and always tasty. So also indicates that this idea is adding on to a previous idea, a previous example. So this one would come first. The endless salad is always fresh, and the endless breadsticks are always warm and buttery. Their pastas are also prepared well and always tasty. So if you are trying to decide where your next dine out meal should come from, I highly recommend Olive Garden, as I know you won't be disappointed. So go, you can see here, we were right about the order, right? And this is what it would look like as an actual paragraph, right? We also have another one here, emphatic order, a bit longer, just like our 3-step process to relaxing was a little bit longer. Our topic sentence here says there are several reasons why the National Enquirer is so popular. There's no denying the Enquirer knows how to get us interested and make us buy. As customers wait in line, they can't help being attracted to the paper's glaring headlines. Then on impulse, customers will add the paper to their other purchases. In addition, the paper is easily available. In supermarkets, convenience stores, and drugstores, the Enquirer is always displayed in racks close to the cash register. We also take a mean delight in their unflattering photos and problems and mistakes, perhaps because we envy them. Yeah, we don't even know what that is. Even though we may be ashamed of our interests, it's hard to resist buying a paper that promises the forbidden love of Ariana Grande, or film star who now looks like a cadaver, or even Hollywood Star Wars, who hates whom and why. Most of all, people read the Enquirer because they love gossip. Okay. We find other people's lives fascinating, especially if those people are rich and famous. We want to see and read about their homes, their clothes, and their friends, lovers, and families. First of all, the paper is advertised on television. In the ads, attractive-looking people say with a smile, "I want to know," as they scan the pages of the Enquirer. The ads, okay, reassure people that it's all right to want to read stories such as Heartbreak for Jennifer Lopez or Princess Beyonce in New Royal Topless Scandal. All right, so we went all over the place here, but we know that the topic sentence says there are several reasons why the National Enquirer is so popular. So we look for the clue to let us know what the first reason is. First of all, the paper is advertised on television. In the ads, attractive-looking people say with a smile, "I want to know," as they scan the pages of the Enquirer. So now we have to look for any sentences that relate to how the Enquirer is advertised. So we know this last sentence does. The ads reassure people that it's all right, right? Oh no. Not sure anything else has to do with the ads. All right. And then we need to look for the second main idea, the second reason. All right. Most of all, oh, that's probably not going to come next. Most of all is probably not the second main idea, the second reason. Again, emphatic order, we're saving the best idea for last. So our most of all will be the last main point that we make. And that has to do with the gossip. So we can kind of rule out this one and this one. Oh, in addition, the paper is easily available. That's probably the second reason why the Enquirer is so popular. So the paper is easily available. So then we gotta look all the sentences that have to do with where it's available at. Oh, in supermarkets, convenience stores, and drugstores, the Enquirer is always displayed in racks close to the cash register. Then on impulse, customers, no. As customers wait in line, they can't help being attracted to the paper's glaring headlines. Then on impulse, customers will add the paper to their other purchases. Most of all, people read the Enquirer because they love gossip. We find other people's lives fascinating, especially if those people are rich and famous. We want to see and read about their homes, their clothes, and their friends, lovers, and families. We also take a kind of mean delight in their unflattering photos and problems and mistakes, perhaps because we envy them. Even though we may be ashamed of our interests, it's hard to resist buying a paper that promises the forbidden love of Ariana Grande. There's no denying the Enquirer knows how to get us interested and make us buy. You can see the correct order right there. To see why, we've only got really two sentences about the ads. And then we come up here to the second reason why the Enquirer is so popular, and that's because it's easily available. This sentence here tells us where it's available, right? All these different places, always displayed close to the cash register. Why does it matter that they're always close to the cash register? Because as customers wait in line, they'll be attracted by the headlines, and then on impulse, they'll add the paper to their purchases, right? And then we got our third main reason here. Most of all, people read the Enquirer because they love gossip. All right. Why do we love gossip? We find other people's lives fascinating. We want to read about their homes and families and friends. We also kind of take a little bit of a mean delight in their failures and shortcomings and mess ups, right? Even though we may be ashamed of it, it's hard to resist those headlines. There's no denying the Enquirer knows how to get us interested and buy the paper, right? And here you can see it as an actual paragraph, right? All right, so you're going to have to do that in one of the assignments for this week, week 2, assignment 2. You will be given a paragraph just like those, where you are given the topic sentence, but then the rest of the sentences are completely out of order. Actually, let me think here. You are not given the topic sentence. You're just given all of the sentences out of order. So you have to pick the topic sentence. That'll be number 1, sentence 1, right? Topic sentence is always the first sentence. But then same idea, you'll have to order all the rest of the sentences the order they should appear in. You know, number them in the correct order. You can come back to these slides to sort of help with that. So that's sort of a first lesson there in thinking about how to organize your main ideas, how to organize the ideas within each main idea, right? But how do we make sure that everything is also connected? Because it's not just, okay, this one makes sense to go first, this one makes sense to go second, this one makes sense to go third. How do we make sure that we have coherence from start to finish and all the way throughout? Coherence, again, that everything is sort of connected, right? So we use transitions, which you've heard me say a few times already. They help the reader follow your train of thought. They help connect ideas and bridge your words. And there are several categories of transitions you can use depending on the connection you're trying to make. You can't just go to a list and choose a transition, because transitions mean specific things, specific relationships between ideas, and you don't want to choose the wrong one. Let's take a look here. We've got addition transitions. These are used to continue a train of thought or continue a set of examples you're adding on. Comparison transitions. These are used to show how your ideas, how your thoughts, how your sentences are alike, how they are similar. Contrast transitions. These transitions are used to sort of change the direction of thought or show how your ideas are different. Concession transitions. This is to show how one idea might be true, but the next idea you're going to share is actually more accurate or more acceptable. So it's like, you know, going back to my Chick-fil-A example, I might say something like, sure, Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays. However, the cleanliness, service, and food they provide Monday through Saturday more than makes up for being closed one day a week. So I'm sort of changing it. I'm changing the direction. I'm making it seem like I'm saying something critical of Chick-fil-A, but then I turn and say something contrasting that. I concede that, yes, there is this one flaw. They're closed on Sundays, but doesn't matter, right? My point is still valid, which is that it is a great restaurant to eat at because of those 3 things: cleanliness, service, and food. All right. Emphasis transitions. These transitions are used to highlight an important idea or to sort of drive a point home. Example transitions, exactly what it sounds like. They are a transition that's used to sort of provide an example, to let your reader know you're providing an example. Summary and concluding transitions. These are used to sum up an idea before moving on to the next main point. Time transitions. We have already looked at these, but we'll look at them again. But those are used to show the steps in a process or, you know, events in a chronological order. Right. So here we have addition words. Right. Words that are used to sort of add on to an idea. We can see here, a drinking problem can destroy a person's life. It can tear a family apart. Not that we can't understand that, but look listen to how it sounds when you use the transition. A drinking problem can destroy a person's life. In addition, it can tear a family apart. Now we understand that tearing a family apart is not just, it's not that destroying a person's life tears the family. This is a second reason why drinking is bad, right? A drinking problem can destroy a person's life. In addition, it can tear a family apart. We're adding on. This right here, this chart, all different kinds of common addition words, words or phrases that you can use to imply this type of transition, this type of adding on, right? So again, also and, equally important for one thing, furthermore, moreover, still, to, right? Comparison words. Again, this is showing how things are similar. Math was hard for me in college. Math was hard for me in high school. It is hard in college. Okay, again, we understand what's being said, but listen to how much smoother and how much nicer it sounds with the comparison transition. Math was hard for me in high school. Likewise, it is hard in college. Similar, right? Got a few of those words and phrases over here. Contrast words, showing the difference, switching the train of thought. Kim and Tom have different tastes in music and food. They both like to dance. Kim and Tom have different tastes in music. However, they both like to dance. Or Kim and Tom have different tastes in music and food. Nevertheless, they both like to dance, right? So showing contrast, something is different. Got a big list of words and phrases over there. Concession words. Again, it's where you're kind of showing, admitting something before switching back to your point of view. I think I failed my biology exam. I only studied for an hour right before the test. I think I failed my biology exam. Admittedly, I only studied for an hour right before the test. So we've got, you can kind of see, we'll look at the other example for this one too. I understand your friends are allowed to go to the concert. You are not allowed to go. How about this instead? I understand your friends are allowed to go to the concert. Regardless of this, you are not allowed to go. I am conceding that I understand your friends are going. However, switching the train, you are not allowed. All right, emphasis words, again, to sort of drive home a point. It is said that people tend to remember what they read or hear last. It is best to save your most important idea until the end of your essay. Or, it is said that people tend to remember what they read or hear last. For this reason, it is best to save your most important idea until the end of your essay. How about this? I ran out of gas on my way to work this morning. I should have stopped for gas on my way home last night. I understand what's being said. It just sounds so much better with the transition. I ran out of gas on my way to work this morning. Clearly, I should have stopped for gas on my way home last night. Right? Driving home a point. Example words. Probably this one will be quite familiar. On the weekends, I like to relax. I enjoy having dinner with friends or binging a new show on Netflix. On the weekend, I like to relax. For example, I enjoy having dinner with friends or binging a new show on Netflix. The children will likely face obstacles. Bad schools and poverty could limit their opportunities. Just, maybe these are examples of the obstacles. It's hard to say. This version here makes it clear though. The children will likely face obstacles, namely, bad schools and poverty could limit their opportunities. Summary and concluding words, right? You do not want sentences to sound choppy or abrupt. You want to guide your reader from one thought to the next. Transition words are an important element of paragraph writing. What? You do not want your sentences to sound choppy or abrupt. You want to guide your reader from one thought to the next. In conclusion, transition words are an important element of paragraph writing. Okay. Right? And then your time words, right? First, next, then, after, soon, previously, thereafter. These you kind of get, just make sure you're using the correct one to imply the correct step in the time order, right? These are the up here, the ones we just looked at, this whole section here. These types of transitions. These are the ones that you're gonna use the most to guide your reader from one sentence to the next. How is your idea in sentence B connected to the idea in sentence C? And how is that one connected to sentence D? You know, I shouldn't be able to cut your paragraph apart, sentence by sentence, and not be able to figure out what order it goes back in. There should be these transitions and connecting words that show me the relationship between your ideas, the flow of your ideas, so that if I cut it apart, I can look at those clues to figure out what order to put it back in. Just like we did up here with these paragraphs, right? Okay. Back through these. There are a few other ways, though, to create coherence. A few other groups of words, categories of words that you can use to connect your ideas and make things coherent. And one is actually repeated words. Now, we're going to learn in week 3 that there is such a thing as useless repetition. That's exactly what it sounds like. I'll go into it more in week 3, but you know, not all repetition is good. However, not all repetition is bad. So repeating key words or phrases can tie ideas together. And if you look here, and it's not even like we're repeating the same exact word, we're repeating a version of a word, right? So it says, volunteering offers individuals many rewarding experiences. A volunteer may change the lives of others while changing his or her own life. Many opportunities exist to volunteer in local communities. Consider volunteering today. We've got a form of this word 4 different times. So the repetition of this word makes sure that we don't forget what we're talking about here. And it, you know, if they keep saying a version of that word, it's going to stick with us. They don't want to use the same version of the word in every single sentence, because then that's going to get really repetitive and boring, maybe even annoying. But repeating a version of that word from start to finish, that simply is repeating the key idea and tying it all together for us. You can also use synonyms. Synonyms are, you remember, words that are spelled completely differently, look completely different, but mean pretty much the same thing, right? Like pop and soda. So you can use synonyms to create connections between your ideas without overusing the one word the whole way through. There are many false ideas about suicide. One wrong idea is that a person who talks about suicide never follows through. The truth is that about 3 out of every 4 people who die by suicide speak of it to 1 or more persons ahead of time. Another misconception is that a person who dies by suicide is poor or downtrodden. Actually, poverty appears to be a deterrent to suicide rather than a predisposing factor. A third myth about suicide is not the most obvious means of suicide is, the The third myth about suicide is that people considering suicide will eventually take their own lives one way or another, whether or not the most obvious means of suicide is removed from their reach. In fact, since an attempt at suicide is often a cry for help, removing a convenient means of taking one's life, such as a gun, can show people thinking about suicide that others are aware of them and want to prevent it. So we started off with that topic sentence. There are many false ideas about suicide. But instead of using that same phrase every time they introduced a new false idea, they used synonyms. One wrong idea, that's pretty much the same thing as saying false idea. Another misconception, that's pretty much the same as false idea. A third myth, a myth is a false idea, right? So they were able to use synonyms to keep us on track without being super repetitive. They didn't have to use the phrase false idea every single time they brought up a new main idea, right? We also have pronouns. We use pronouns all the time. You probably don't even think about it, but you want to make sure that you're using them correctly and effectively in your writing. Remember, pronouns take the place of nouns to help avoid repetition. So you don't want to say, Mary got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Then Mary went downstairs for breakfast. Then Mary went upstairs and brushed her teeth and got dressed for school. Then Mary caught the bus at 7:45. We will replace the noun Mary with pronouns like she and her, right? It helps avoid some of that useless repetition. So I have an example here. A professor of nutrition at a major university recently advised his students that they could do better on their exams by eating lots of sweets. He told them that the sugar in cakes and candy would stimulate their brains to work more efficiently, and that if the sugar was eaten for only a month or two, it would not do them any harm. So you can see how, in bold here, his, he, right, refer back to the professor. They, their, them, and then their and them refer back to the students, and how it refers back to the sugar. Right? Pronouns all over the place in this little passage to take the place of 3 different nouns, so that we didn't have to keep saying a professor, his students, and sugar every time we needed to refer to one of them. Pronouns are very useful. We also have something called parallel structure. Parallel structure can create a great deal of coherence in your writing. It's not that you're always going to be able to use it purposefully or intentionally. Sometimes it just happens by following a time order or an emphatic order. But other times you can be more intentional with parallel structure. What is parallel structure? It is using the same pattern of words to show that 2 or more ideas have the same level of importance. It helps establish a pattern, and when that pattern is broken, your writing is less pleasing. So a lot of times what will happen is you won't even know you're using parallel structure, or that you have started using parallel structure, but you have. You have started, you have set up a pattern, set up an expectation, and then because you weren't doing it intentionally, by the time you get to the end, you break the pattern in some way, and that you don't even realize it, again, because you weren't intentionally trying to create parallel structure. It just happened, and then you broke the parallel structure. And when your reader is reading it, It's like, oh, that doesn't sound right. And I gave you a couple of, an example here. Last weekend, I went swimming, jogging, and on a hike. The meaning of my sentence is still perfectly clear. And that's another thing that you have to realize about coherence. In some ways, coherence can really mess with your reader's understanding, and they really won't get what you're trying to say. Other times, they will be able to understand what you said. It just doesn't, it's not very pleasing. It wasn't very effective. It was not as well written or well structured. Parallel structure is one of the things that'll do that to you. Last weekend, I went swimming, jogging, and on a hike. We get it, but wouldn't it have sounded much better if we kept them all in the same structure, used the same pattern? Last weekend, I went swimming, jogging, and hiking. So that's just a very simple example of parallel structure in one sentence, just with gerunds, the ing form of 3 verbs, right? Here's a little longer example. I have sought love first because it brings ecstasy. Ecstasy is so great that I would often have sacrificed all the rest of life for a few hours of this joy. I have sought it next because it relieves loneliness, that terrible loneliness in which one shivering consciousness looks over the rim of the world into the cold, unfathomable, lifeless abyss. I have sought it finally because in the union of love I have seen, in a mystic miniature, the prefiguring vision of the heaven that saints and poets have imagined. Very romantic passage here. But you can see there's 3 reasons why they have looked for love. I have sought love first because, I have sought it next because, I have sought it finally because. Parallel structure. And again, it's not like phrasing these differently would have altered the meaning or confused the reader, but using that parallel structure makes the passage even more cohesive and pleasing, which then means it's more effective and probably more memorable. Because again, even with, we know if things are provided to us in a pattern, we're much more likely to remember them faster. That's why we use patterns in nursery rhymes and songs when we teach kids, right? You can put it in some sort of pattern, some sort of easily remembered expectations, it sticks. Same thing with your writing. Parallel structure is a great way to do that. I don't feel like this is something that you have to be great at, especially the intentional use of parallel structure. What I really want you to be thinking about is noticing when you have unintentionally used parallel structure and then broken it, then fixing it, right? Because again, there's a lot of those, especially on a sentence level, like this example, the swimming, jogging, and hiking. You'll do this, right? It's nothing for us to create a sentence like this, when really it would be best like this. So I'm not necessarily saying you should be doing this, but you should be watching out for this, right? Okay. So what we have here finally is a paragraph that, on first read, it's not going to be awful. It's not a total wash. There's some good things about it, but it's just not coherent. It's not ordered the right way. It's not, the ideas aren't connected the right way. There's just a lot that needs to be worked on to make the paragraph the most effective it can be, right? The ancient Egyptians were masters of preserving dead people's bodies by making mummies of them. Mummies several thousand years old have been discovered nearly intact. The skin, hair, teeth, fingernails, and toenails and facial features of the mummies were evident. It is possible to diagnose the disease they suffered in life, such as smallpox, arthritis, and nutritional deficiencies. The process was remarkably effective. The process of diagnosing them? Okay. Sometimes apparent were the fatal afflictions of the dead people. A middle-aged king died from a blow to the head, and polio killed a child king. Mummification consisted of removing the internal organs, applying natural preservatives inside and out, and then wrapping the body in layers of bandages. Again, there's nothing like, everything in here belongs in this paragraph, but it's not all in the right order. That's not all tied together the right way. So we need to work on using pronouns and restated ideas. We need to look for, work on using transition words. We need to work on using parallel structure. So here would be the new and improved version. The ancient Egyptians were masters of preserving dead people's bodies by making mummies of them. In short, mummification consisted of removing the internal organs, applying natural preservatives inside and out, and then wrapping the body in layers of bandages. And the process was remarkably effective. Indeed, mummies several thousand years old have been discovered nearly intact. Their skin, hair, teeth, fingernails, and toenails and facial features are still evident. Their diseases in life, such as smallpox, arthritis, and nutritional deficiencies, are still diagnosable. Even their fatal afflictions are still apparent. A middle-aged king died from a blow on the head. A child king died from polio. Again, we didn't take any ideas out. Everything belonged in the paragraph. It was unified, right? It had unity, which means it was on point. It had enough support. It's just, we kind of got lost in how, the best way to share the examples. And this worked. So we want to make sure that while we have a focused point in our topic sentence, and that we have provided specific and adequate support for that topic, we also want to, at some point, think about the coherence of the paragraph. Hopefully, before you write the paragraph, you have figured out some of your coherence, certainly at least the order of your main ideas. And then once you have the paragraph written, you can look at it and think, okay, let's look at my first main idea. Did I order those sentences in a logical way? Have I connected those sentences? Have I connected my second main idea to my first main idea? Is there a transition there that lets my reader know I'm beginning to discuss my first main idea? Is there a transition that lets my reader know I am moving on to discuss my second main idea? Coherence doesn't necessarily have to come as you're writing it the first time. Coherence is something that you can go back and work on in revision. Okay. All right, so don't forget that we've got common methods of organization. Time order and emphatic order are the two most popular that you'll end up using. But once you've organized your main ideas with one of those methods, you then have to make sure that you are connecting all the rest of your ideas using those transition words and connecting words. And that you have, created something that is not only logically ordered, but also just more effective for your reader. Right? Okay, if you have any questions about anything in this lesson, please reach out. Again, you're going to have a homework assignment that is all about coherence this week. Use it as practice, right? It's a great way to make sure that you are understanding what coherence is, because it is a pretty significant portion of your grade on the formal writing assignment paragraphs in weeks 5 and 6. So using the assignment of practice will help you gauge if you're understanding coherence enough, and whether or not you need to review the lessons or reach out to me for help. My wait for my feedback too. I mean, you might think that you're struggling, but turns out you actually know exactly what you're doing. So use it as practice. Read my feedback once I grade it, and then reach out to me if you need to for more assistance with coherence. Otherwise, you're just free to go ahead and move on to the next thing.